Cyrus Habib, from Braille to Yale. At the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, he's a virtual rock star. A Rhodes Scholar, lawyer, state representative, and senator who at age 35 became Washington State's lieutenant governor. Who is Cyrus Habib?
My parents came to the U.S. from Iran. My dad came in 1970. My mom came later in the decade and moved to Maryland, and that's where I was born. I was born in the Baltimore area. Shortly after I was born, I was diagnosed with a rare form of childhood eye cancer. It took my eyesight in my left eye as a newborn, and then it came back again and took my eyesight in my right eye, leaving me completely blind at age 8. The experience of losing my eyesight as a child was obviously extremely difficult for me, but it was, I think, more difficult and painful for my parents. I'm an only child, and so as you can imagine, it was very difficult for them to see me in pain, to see me going through chemotherapy and radiation and surgeries and all the various interventions for childhood cancer. And then, of course, it was extremely frightening for them, the idea of me being blind, most likely for the rest of my life. But they made an early commitment to each other, right at that time, that they would never let their fear become my fear, that they would never let their apprehension be communicated to me, and that I should never internalize that sense of doubt or fear about what would be possible.
When he was 8 years old, Cyrus's family moved from Baltimore, Maryland to Bellevue, Washington.
I often tell a story about how shortly after I became blind, I was in 3rd grade, and as kids often do, we would all look forward to recess time on the playground and go out and play on the jungle gym and the other playground equipment. And I think knowing that I had recently become blind and knowing that my mother is a lawyer and a litigator, the school wasn't too thrilled about me playing with the other kids on the playground, particularly on the slippery monkey bars and swing sets 5 feet off the ground. So they kept me by the side of the school. They kept me with the recess monitors while the other kids were playing. So I went home, I told my parents what was happening and that I was being excluded, and my mom took me with her to the school the next day. She took me with her to the principal's office so that I could learn how to become an advocate for myself. And she said to the principal, you know, I'm going to take my son to your school on the weekends, and I'm going to take him there. I'm going to teach him how to get around the jungle gym, and I'm going to teach him how to get around the entire playground. And she said, you know, it may happen that he may slip and fall. And it may even happen that he may slip and fall and break his arm. That's a fear that any mother has. But then she said, I can fix a broken arm, I can never fix a broken spirit. And that moment was so critical. It was so important to me to learn early on that I deserve to be included, that even though I may have to work harder than others or learn things in a different way, that I deserve to have a place and to fulfill my own potential and aspirations just like any other kid.
Cyrus was a graduate of Columbia University, a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University, and he received a law degree from Yale Law School. While an undergraduate at Columbia University, Cyrus interned in Senator Hillary Clinton's New York office.
My first day of work in Hillary's New York City office was September 14th, 2001. So what would have been your run-of-the-mill congressional internship, you know, answering phones and getting coffee and licking envelopes, became a very special opportunity to serve, because what we did was we spent that year helping displaced individuals and businesses from Lower Manhattan find new homes in New Jersey, in other boroughs of New York, in suburbs of New York City. And so what I learned in that experience is that government can't and shouldn't do everything. But what government is uniquely positioned to do is to help an individual, a family, a community, a city, or even a country that is in crisis. And so I just developed a profound appreciation for how government can help constituents that are going through some really, really difficult times. After law school, I came back to Washington State. I accepted a position with Perkins Coie, which is a law firm not only known for its private sector clients, it's the largest private law firm in the state, but also for having a very rich tradition of doing pro bono work and working in the community. And so I practiced law for 4 years there before joining the Washington State House of Representatives.
Most importantly, you know that I'll fight for you and your families every single day.
I was inspired to run for office by a few different events. One was Barack Obama's candidacy, and I think that a generation of young people of color from diverse backgrounds were inspired by what seemed to many of us, even those of us who were optimistic about America, to be impossible. President Obama proved possible with his candidacy and his win.
So Susan, is with delight, I'm presenting you with a letter appointing you to Superior Court. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was also inspired by my mom, who ran for King County Superior Court judge.
ESHB 2023.
I'm particularly proud that in my first term in the State House of Representatives, I authored and passed the Washington Jobs Act of 2014.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That piece of legislation authorized so-called crowdfunding for startup businesses.
Today, we're proud to share our newest creation, the Spirit Rover, a desktop version of the famous rover sent to Mars.
So that businesses can raise money by issuing small amounts of stock to investors.
By backing this project, you'll help us buy parts in larger quantities and cover the tooling costs for Spirit's custom parts.
And all of a sudden now you have people in the community who never thought of themselves before as business owners being shareholders in a community-based business, and they're invested in it. And we've heard great stories of how that's being used.
Some politicians don't hear what we need, but Cyrus does.
My name is Cyrus Habib. When I lost my eyesight as a child, I learned to listen.
In 2016, Cyrus Habib announced his candidacy for Lieutenant Governor of Washington. He was supported and endorsed by President Barack Obama.
I really enjoyed serving in the State House and the State Senate, but as I was serving in the Senate and I learned about the various roles that the Lieutenant Governor plays, I was really drawn to this office. I gave it a lot of thought and consideration, and decided that this job was the perfect match for my interests and experiences.
I actually happen to think it's pretty cool that you all elected a 3-time cancer surviving, fully blind Iranian-American from a mixed religion immigrant family to be Lieutenant Governor. Thank you. Thank you.
A really critical part of what the Lieutenant Governor does is preside over the State Senate. First order of business, standing committee reports, Secretary will read. What that means is that I not only call on senators to speak, but also resolve controversial, procedural, parliamentary, or constitutional questions that come up during the Senate debate. But another part of the job of the Lieutenant Governor is to lead on a number of economic development and international trade initiatives. Promoting Washington's exports is vitally important, and probably more important now in light of some of the statements being made from the White House, probably more important than ever. And so I was very drawn to the ability of this office to work on economic development, not just for one district, but truly for the entire state. I've really enjoyed doing that. One final piece of the job that really can't be overstated is the degree to which, as an independently elected official, you can choose your priorities and set your agenda.
If we're honest with ourselves, if we believe that prosperity is for everyone, then we need to be honest and say that college is also for everyone.
And we've made focusing on expanding opportunity for youth, veterans, and people with disabilities the core of our office mission. I benefited tremendously from adaptive software and other technologies growing up that allowed me to learn how to read and go to school and do my job.
Gross Senate Bill 5111 on third reading and final passage. Remarks, Senator Braun.
And right now, I'm so proud and excited that we have pioneered technology in the Washington State Senate so that I can recognize senators and call on them independently without the help of a sighted person. And the way it works is that every senator has a touch screen on their desk, and when they want to speak, they stand up and touch their screen, and what that does is it conveys their name to a Braille display that is sitting right in front of me at the front of the Senate chamber, and I can read the names of all the senators wishing to be recognized and call on them in the order that makes sense.
Senator Frocht.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Please state your point of personal privilege.
This is technology that, to our knowledge, has never been used before, and it just shows that when we are committed to inclusion, we can make even the most challenging sorts of tasks for people who are blind or experience other disabilities accessible.
We've got a lot to celebrate here in Washington State, but we've got a lot of things to be worried about nationally.
As the first Iranian-American to hold statewide elected office, and to date the highest ranking Iranian-American, I do feel a particular sense of responsibility, not only to show that it is possible to run and win elected office, but also to stick up for our fellow Americans of Iranian descent, but also from other Middle Eastern descents. And, I'll tell you, of the 7 countries named by President Trump in his executive order on immigration, I'm the only statewide elected official descended from any of those 7 countries. And so I did feel from the moment I learned of that executive order a strong sense of responsibility to speak out. It's inhumane. It's barbaric, it's un-American, and it's the kind of behavior that we had committed decades ago to having learned was un-American. We are all just as patriotic as communities as any other set of new Americans, and that's why I was proud to author an op-ed in the Washington Post, proud to work with Governor Inslee and our Attorney General Bob Ferguson to make sure that Washington State is leading the charge for equal rights for Middle Eastern Americans and others.
So who is Cyrus Habib?
I think about my life and I think about the challenges that I faced early on, and I always go back to the experience of having been excluded and having to fight to be included again. And I really think that at my core, I'm somebody who always remembers that sense of being on the outside. And I feel a strong sense of solidarity with everybody who feels excluded for some reason, excluded from the educational or economic or political system in this country. And so what animates me and motivates me every day to go to work and to do this job is to make sure that nobody feels that sense of exclusion, that everybody feels what it means to be included in this great country. And I truly think that if it weren't for that childhood experience or those childhood experiences, I don't know that I would burn with that same passion, but that's what excites me each and every day.